First question?
The first question would be, why do you think the history of Congo Square is so significant to New Orleans culture?
Well, Congo Square is very significant to New Orleans culture based on its history. Even before the arrival of the French, Congo Square was in the vicinity of a spot which the homeless Indians used for the annual corn harvest rituals, and it was considered sacred ground. So now, maybe not just this specific square, but this vicinity of this area.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Congo Square has been the gathering place for people of African descent since the early 1700s, since their arrival in 1719, early 1720s and 1730s. Africans would gather in Congo Square on Sundays, being that was the only free day that they had based on the Code Noir, the Black Codes, which said that they were to be baptized Catholic, and on Sundays they didn't have to work. So New Orleans is really the epicenter of, to me, of African and African American culture in the United States, not just in New Orleans.
Absolutely. And then number two would be, to you personally, what does the square represent and the music in it and things like that?
Well, I'm a drummer, so we hear the drums in the background. This is the place where our people, the rhythms of New Orleans were transferred from Africa to New Orleans through this portal called Congo Square. So we see the most famous rhythm of New Orleans being the second line is based on a rhythm from the Congo called the bambula.
Oh, yeah.
And the bambula means to honor your ancestors. Bula means 1 year, bam means many, so it means to honor ancestors. So that was kind of the rhythm that was played during jazz funerals, which is the time when you honor someone who's becoming an ancestor. So I remember, like you, I was in high school when I first encountered the word Congo Square, just reading history books, and so it was always intriguing to me because I was always, even then, one that had my first African drum, So it was always in my consciousness from that point on. Originally, I was from Chicago, so I read about this in Chicago. And when I was moved here in 1982, I applied for a job in Chicago with Illinois Bell. They had a hiring freeze, but they asked me was I willing to relocate. So 8 weeks later, I'm in New Orleans.
Yeah.
So I kind of think it was a fate as well.
Absolutely.
So that's why I think this Congo Square is so pivotal, because it's not only a place where our culture continues, but it's also a place of spiritual energy. Like oftentimes the thing we pray about, the things we pray about and ask for, and intentions we have in Congo Square, they manifest. I see them coming true. Like even some conversations we may have today, someone else a half hour walk up and have an answer to the questions.
Absolutely.
So it's a very special place.
Yeah. Where do you see the lasting effects of what happened here in Congo Square? And I know in the music today, but I'm thinking of specific aspects of the culture that you see the lasting, the preservation inside the culture.
Well, the lasting effects are, New Orleans is a Sunday city. Like even today, the Zulu Social and Pleasure Club are having their annual second line. So why do they have second lines on Sunday? Sunday was the free day.
Absolutely.
What's the whole concept of the social and pleasure clubs? That was even transferable from the Congo to New Orleans as part of the transatlantic slave trade. When you see Mardi Gras Indian traditions, when do they practice? On Sundays.
In Congo Square.
They use drums, they use call and response, they have feathers. All these things are indigenous to African practices. And when we go by your mama's house on Sunday, everything we do on like Saints games, I mean, New Orleans is a Sunday city.
Absolutely.
I mean, not just because of the Saints. This predates football or any sports. So I think Congo Square is pivotal because this is the epicenter of all these. This was the place Africans could come and they could gather if they were from the Congo, or they were from Senegambia, or they were from Benin, or they were from any other parts of Africa. They could find their own country people and speak their own languages and practice their own dances and their own religions. And over time, all of these traditions have evolved to the contemporary practices of New Orleans culture today.
Oh, thank you very much. And if you could talk a little bit about the founding of your organization and what that means to this city and what that means to you and things of that nature.
We formed the Congo Square Preservation Society in 1988. It was originally called the Congo Square Foundation, but what prompted us to form an organization, I was part of a group called Percussion Incorporated, a drum group. And we had received a small grant from the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation in 1988 to teach drum workshops for a month. And so originally, our plan was to go into the Lafitte Housing Project and teach the workshops. But when we talked to the resident councils, they said they didn't approve of that because too many times people are getting grants and coming into public housing to say teach poor people things that poor people already know, but the poor people never get any of the money. So we said, oh, we didn't think about it. So we apologized and said, okay, well, let's just come to Congo Square because there was really no consistent drumming activity going on in 1988.
Okay.
So after a month, it caught on and people wanted us to continue. But we saw, like even on this very spot, we would see how the park, it was a hard time in 1989. Like the city was having trouble keeping up the public spaces in their parks. And so park and parkways in New Orleans were encouraging citizens to adopt different parts of the city. It might be a neutral ground or a park or your neighborhood. And so we said we would adopt Congo Square. And so they asked us what was our name. We didn't have a name, so on the spot we said, well, we're the Congo Square Foundation. But over time we've renamed ourselves the Congo Square Preservation Society because our mission is to preserve our culture and heritage and create a society of people who work together to band our resources together for not only the past, present, but the future of our city. And by 1993, we had applied to get Congo Square listed on the National Register of Historic Places on January 28, 1993. In 1997, we erected this plaque. So we've had a consistent presence here in the park over the last 29, now next year will be 30 years. And we can see now there's a resurgence in the park. You know, it's more activism around drumming on Sundays. There's a new Roots of Music sculpture garden that was erected. That really came into being like 2008, 2009. Now there's talk about reopening the municipal auditorium. And so, but the main thing we have to see is that this is the epicenter of African American culture in New Orleans, but also around the country. But we have to make sure that our people who live in New Orleans who've developed this genius of a culture, who live in poverty oftentimes, have a place where we can create a creative economy. And we feel like Armstrong Park and Congo Square is this place.
And I'm sure you guys were instrumental in the changing of the name from PGT Beauregard Square to Congo Square.
Freddie Williams Evans, in her research in 2011, she found that in 1885, this park was named after General P.T. Beauregard, the Confederate general, and that was the time of Jim Crow.
Yeah.
Where blacks couldn't come to
And the
this
false
area.
narrative that the South won the Civil War and things like
and
that.
so when she found that information out, she petitioned the city of New Orleans, and Christian Palmer was the council person for this district, and the mayor at that time. They agreed that we could change the name officially to Congo Square, and it was done right before Jazz Fest in 2011. See, our names, we're on the register of certain places, public places, we have plaques, and also there's also historic markers going up at the Moonwalk around the transatlantic slave trade. There's another one at Esplanade and Charters around the domestic slave trade. There are about to be 5 or 6 more of these. So you're going to see more and more signs of our presence that historically we've been researching so that our young people can know our history. And so people who arrive here, even though New Orleans is like the #1 destination for African Americans in the United States. So when people come in for Essence, they'll be able to read about our history. And it's not just a place to come have fun, but it's also a place of great history and culture.